Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So today we will be talking about another series of 3 games that I've played against our club member Runinja, or you could say Runinja or Runinja. I call it Runinja. So let's get on it. E4 C6. This is known as the Caro-Kann defense. The idea is to play d5. The idea is to bring the bishop out this way. The idea is to develop the knight out, sort of make a very solid structure, and just go with it. So I play what is called the two knights attack. So I bring both of my knights out. D takes e4, knight takes e4, bishop g4. Now, to me, I kind of felt like, I could play h3 for one, and after bishop h5, I could think about knight g3, bishop g6, and knight e5, right? And just take that. I could do that, or I could play d4, right? I could play bishop c4, maybe look for something on f7. So I could do all that, but I decided to play bishop c4 first. And here, there is technically only one big, decent move, right? Without giving up this bishop. What do you think my threat is when I play bishop c4? And it's hard to see, but I am threatening the move knight e5 right now. So for example, if, let's say black played a5, the move I would be playing here is the move knight e5. You might ask, why knight e5? Well, if bishop takes queen, bishop takes, checkmate. What a surprise. So now that you know it's checkmate, bishop's got to go here. After take, queen h5, bam, g6, knight takes, h takes, queen takes rook, knight h6, and after d3, the bishop's going to come in, h4, h5, bishop's coming in, so much pressure on this side, it's going to be game over very soon. So we want to avoid that, right? So we want to avoid this sort of tactic, and surprisingly, I would say the only two moves you should be considering as black are one, e6, prevent this connection to f7, and two, if you really hate this knight, just take it. After queen takes f3, e6. After castles, knight d7, d4, and then it's a game, right? But kind of feel like you gave up the bishop kind of early there. So I wouldn't suggest bishop takes f3. I would only suggest e6. But our friend here played knight f6. Now, I'm going to tell you that we can apply the same idea here. We can play knight e5. And here, this is completely winning. Now, we remember that if bishop takes queen, bishop takes f7 with checkmate, right? So, well, instead I did play bishop takes f7 because I wanted to lighten the blow, but knight e5 is a harder blow. Now think about this. I'm threatening checkmate, right? So, what if, let's say, black played queen d4 and attacked these 3 pieces? What do you do? Well, the solution is tricky. Number one, you have to learn which piece to capture and which piece to let go of. So one, this is the right move. Well, you could think of it in multiple ways. Knight takes f6, e takes f6. Bishop takes, king e7, knight takes g4, king takes f7. So let me tell it to you. Bam, 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 and bam. So here, white is up 1 pawn, and that's good enough because we got that f7 pawn. But instead, right, you think about it again, queen d4, you can also think of just bishop takes f7, king d8, knight takes, queen takes, knight e3. And after something like e5, you play d3, you bring the bishop back, you castle, and you play f4, something like that. The good thing here is we expose black's king, and so those are just some possible variations as to what could happen after knight e5. Except in the game, I decided to soften the blow. I said, let me just take an f7. Let me just demonstrate my idea first, right? So after king takes f7, knight e5 check, king g8, knight takes f6, ef6, and here I played the move queen takes g4. Very tricky. Very tricky. The reason being, let me just get on this diagonal, look for checkmate, right? Our man, Runinja, fell for it. So, queen c4 check, knight's guarding f7, right? So they're each guarding f7, queen e6, checkmate. The king looks clumsy, doesn't look great. So that's the end of the game. So, what did we learn from this game? We learned about the concept of f7 in the Caro-Kann, right? It's important to shut this connection down with the move e6. Now the game will progress smoothly from here after something like castles, h3, d3, c3, d4, whatever you want, a4, b4. Just after knight f6, knight e5 would have been the killer, soften the blow. Bishop takes, and the correct move here was the move queen d5. Why? Queen can no longer come here. Queen can no longer come here. The queen does two things in one and attacks the knight. So I'd have to move my knight back. Knight a6. I have to play castles. And then after something like h5, queen d4. It really depends. Queen f5 and the game goes on. So that's the first game against Runinja. Let's get to our second game. So in this game, I played a Dutch, and let's just skip over the opening briefly because in the Dutch, I'm going to play this sort of pawn chain setup for e5, and then just go for it. I'm just going to go start launching things on the king side after knight h5. So at this point, what white needs to do, right? So black's goal is to play e5. Now, what is white's goal? Right? White, first of all, the main goal of white is actually to expand on the queen side. And it's hard to see because the intentions are not clear, right? At the start of the game, you see black sets the bishop here, the knight's here, the queen's going to come here, the knight's here. You see that black has a plan, right? But white, however, needs to develop all these things before the queen side can become effective. So after bishop d3, knight h5. Now, what I would recommend here is the move h3, being that after knight h5, the bishop can slip back, or the bishop can go to g5, right? Keep an eye on this, not allowing e5. That's possible. so I would suggest h3 because the bishop is so strong in guarding this central square, and you want to keep it that way. Knight h5, and then after bishop h2, black and white. So black is going to play queen e8 and go for e5, or for example, c6, knight d7, c6, knight d7, queen c7, e5. Those are just some ways to produce the same pawn break, but in the game, let's see how it was done. Bishop d3, knight h5, bishop g3. Now, at this point, I make this conscious decision. Do I take it and give white's rook the open file? Now, it could be an okay decision, right? Knight takes g3, h takes g3, e5, and push e4 maybe. But after something like d takes, and e4, well, now it just feels like, you could play knight c6 and knight d4, but maybe there's something coming towards here. Or if we play e5, right, and we play something like c5 with the idea of bishop c4 check, or the idea of queen b3 check, and sort of forcing black onto this H file, right? It wouldn't feel as safe as if you were on the G file. So if you didn't get that, hopefully you did. If you don't, just ask me in the comments. So I like to think of it as, this opened up a file for the rook. And so when that happens, you have to evaluate the efficiency of your trade. Is the benefit of getting a pair of bishops more advantageous than, say, just moving the queen over and executing this e5, right? So instead, I said, you know what, I'm going to abandon that. I'm going to play queen e8 first. After knight d5, knight a6, queen b3, c6, knight c3, move my king over because don't want the discovery to come on me. After castles, knight takes, and I play e5 finally. Because now you notice there's no rook here, and the danger has sort of toned down. So after d takes, e4, bring my knight, queen c2, a5, solidify and not allow white from being able to scare off the knight. So that's key. After rook e1, here to me is a very pivotal moment. Why is it a pivotal moment? Because I have to decide whether I'm going to let my opponent, right? Am I going to let my opponent take on f5? Or am I going to just ignore that and just let the bishop be bad, right? So at this moment, you have to start thinking about those options. But you also have to think about how to take advantage of that weirdly placed bishop. Right, so I decided in the end to play the move f4 because I wanted to keep the bishop in a bad defending square, right? It's sort of like stuck between the two pine cones. It's like a burrow tree within all the pine cones, and it's shaded from all the other people that are out there. So after g takes f4, rook takes f4, keeping the file open, rook e3, I start piling pressure. I start getting my bishop in, knight e6, takes, and bring my knight to d4, and I'll continue my analysis in this position in the next video. Thank you.